And as we say that, people, I can only imagine somebody's like, well, yeah, that's why I do it. But as we're getting the ding, ding, ding here, we might be getting like a somewhere else.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
I'm so glad that we are recording today's episode because this is an episode that we get asked about all the time. Like, we get asked about this topic all the time. And every time that it comes up, I remember the conversation that we have with people are like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I could do that. Like, we've never been given permission to do this. And this is an episode that I would have needed 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
I could have used this episode like, learn how to feed yourself, mama, dada. No.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about today, is saying no, how to say no.
And ironically enough, that's kind of how, like, mama, dada, yes, no. It's one of the first words that we learn how to say.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's interesting because a lot of the time when children are learning to say no, it's because they suddenly realize they have the power to say no. They don't just have to do what is being done to them, what they're being told to do.
Their little brains are like, I can set a boundary.
Yeah.
And then their parent comes along.
Actually what their brain is saying. I mean, it could be, who knows? But there is this like that. I mean, they do. They try setting boundaries. They try testing boundaries. Mm-hmm. But so often those boundaries kind of get steamrolled by parents because they don't know that. They don't really understand fully what's going on, or it's just inconvenient. Mm-hmm. It's inconvenient to work with a child's boundaries, especially because there's a phase that children go through where the boundaries aren't necessarily reasonable. They are just, I'm trying to, there's a brilliant thread that does the rounds every now and again about like the reason that a toddler is throwing a tantrum, and like the child that is throwing a tantrum because I can't make its shadow go away, or like the child who's throwing a tantrum because he doesn't have the banana he just ate. Mm-hmm. like all of those sorts of things. And so there is a testing period in that where you want to try and find the balance between honoring the boundaries and also functioning as a family. And that's not always easy. And I think that what ends up happening is that the older we get, the more we kind of get taught to conform and to say yes, both at home, at school with our teachers and those sorts of things. And I know that a lot of us, we get a lot of our needs met and reinforced by saying yes, by conforming, by being the quote unquote good girl, good boy, good person. Like, I know that I'm a recovering good girl because I got a lot of my needs met when I said yes, and when I did what was asked of me, and when I was, so I didn't get and you often don't get reinforced for saying no. A lot of the time you might get punished for saying no, or you might get your needs compromised by saying no. So there's this very early learned behavior that affects our system, that we kind of take into our systems, which is that by saying yes, things are going to generally be better for us. And by saying no, things are generally going to be less good for us. And especially where we might be people who have low self-worth. And we've talked in previous podcast episodes about how we live in a culture where we're constantly being told that we're not good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, sexy enough, thin enough, successful enough, like whatever it is, we all have, there's this underlying kind of sense of lack of self-worth. And a lot of the time we try to get our worth met, our value need met by having other people value us. And one of the learned patterns that we have is like, oh, if this person asks me to do something and I say yes, I'm seen as valuable to them, therefore I get to feel valuable for a short period of time while they're seeing me as valuable. And so I think it's interesting, like we always have some little notes up on the screen to kind of guide us on the things that we are that we're talking about, and I'm realizing I'm actually talking about the first point without realizing I was talking about the first point. So we get into this habit of saying yes, because a lot of the time it feels we get a hit of we get this kind of rush where we say yes and it's like, oh my God, thank you so much, you're amazing, blah blah blah. That all of a sudden it's like, ooh, that feels kind of good when I do that.
Love, value, acknowledgement, like
that ding, 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 ding. And we're going to talk about the ding, ding, dings in another episode. But it's like, check across the board as far as our needs are concerned. Go ahead.
And as we say that, people, I can only imagine somebody's like, well, yeah, that's why I do it. But as we're getting the ding, ding, ding here, we might be getting like a somewhere else. And usually if it's a ding, ding, ding that doesn't, like if the yes doesn't serve you and it's ding, 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 you're feeling that, there's like 12 wah-wahs that are below it.
Yeah. And I don't think we haven't recorded the episode on the needs formula yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
That's to come as well. And we talk about so often we get so focused on these little things that are meeting our needs in little ways, we don't look at the cost of those things. And that's, so we're going, yes, this feels great. And then we're forgetting about the fact that we end up without sleep and without eating and running ourselves into the ground as a result afterwards. And it's actually interesting. We've got a series coming up after this on burning the candle at both ends. And one of the reasons that we often end up burning the candle at both ends is because we haven't said no. We've said yes to too many things as we're going about our day-to-day lives. So we've got our stuff, we've got this other stuff and this other person's stuff and this other person's stuff, and we're trying to juggle them all. So one of the great ways to avoid burning the candle at both ends is learning how to say no. So why do people say yes? They say yes because in some ways we've been conditioned into saying yes. And the conditioning is, I mean, when we're a kid, we don't go, oh, that behavior met my needs, so I'm going to do more of that. Or, oh, that behavior cost my needs, don't do that again. Like,
how simple would life be though as a child? If I could have like gone through life knowing what I know, like how many times as adults have you like think poop? Dear listener, whoever you are right now,
like you said, think poop. I was like, what? Like, no, my brain heard something different to what was being said.
I mean, sometimes, dear listener, sometimes I say things that I don't realize. I'm like, I thought I said you, but
no, that was all me.
Okay. Carry on. How many times have you? Now I forgot what I was going to ask. What you've thought about?
You were saying about like how good would it have been if you'd known?
Oh this? If I could go back, only knowing what I know now, or knowing what I know now. Like if I could turn back time, knowing what I know now. Like as a kid, like, like the world just seems so fucking big as a child. Like to be like
to understand
like.
Yeah. Well, and actually we've got another upcoming episode that's going to come a little bit further in the future where we're going to talk about attachment theory. And attachment theory is based on how our needs are met or not met as children. And that then goes on and affects our relationships in older life. So there's a lot of this that affects our day-to-day existence as adults that is formed as we are children. And yeah, I mean, as I said, the child doesn't go, oh, la, la, yay, my needs are being met, or boo, my needs are not being met. All that happens is that one feels better than the other. So the child learns to do more of what feels good and less of what doesn't feel good. And so if it feels good, if they're getting that kind of that reward, that kind of dopamine hit every time, oh, look, I've done this thing. Yay, that feels good in my system. More of that then. We'll hit that button again. Okay, I'll do the thing that I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to do as I'm told and da-da-da. So a lot of the time that's what's happened. We've just done more of what felt good and less of what doesn't. And we've carried these patterns and behaviors because nobody's ever taught us about needs. No one's ever taught us why we were doing these things. And we've never done like an audit of like our behaviors of like, hold on a second, why am I doing this? And does this still work for me? Now I'm a fully like fledged adult living my own life? Was this something I was doing just to please a parent? Sorry, it was me hitting the desk. Was this something to do with a dynamic at home that was harmful or toxic? And I learned to do this because I was trying to survive this dynamic, but in actual fact, that dynamic doesn't exist in my life now. So is this something I've learned to do as a way of self-preservation or protection that I don't need anymore? And when you then add that to a lot of people, I said, with low self-worth, they're like, oh, let me do something that makes me feel good. Oh, look, when I help volunteer for these 56 projects, I get to feel good because every single one of them, we're like, oh my God, you're amazing. Thank you so much. You're a star. You're so blah, 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 blah. And that comes at a very significant cost often. So why do people not want to say no? Well, I mean, the obvious answer is, if saying yes, the perception is that saying yes is meeting their needs. And this is a subconscious thing. It's not, again, like the adults are going, I'm going to say yes because this is going to meet my needs right now. There's like subconsciously we process this and our subconscious goes, oh, it felt good when we did that. Let's do that again. What the perception is also subconsciously that if we don't do that, if we do something different, that our needs won't be met, or worse, our needs might be compromised. And when you think about it in terms of the things that we are consciously aware of, like we're aware of our relationships, we're aware of the need for our relationships and the need for connection that we have with other people. It's like, well, if we get closer to people and people, we feel more connection when we say yes to them. If we say no to them, the fear is that we'll feel less connected, that they might reject us, they might abandon us, they might leave us, they might find somebody else who'll say yes. And as a result, our needs will end up being compromised, our social needs for like love and connection. So a lot of the time there is this genuine fear, and a lot of this, as with so many things, I mean, I think we actually need to do a podcast on this specifically, is that the difference between the conscious and the subconscious when it comes to needs is so vast. Most people think you say needs, they're like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. No, your brain knows like a very, very tiny fraction about what we're talking about needs. You will be amazed the gymnastics that your subconscious does to get you to do shit to meet your needs. It's extraordinary. And a lot of things we're doing, we don't realize, it's not a conscious thing. It's like our subconscious has just added 2 and 2 and come up with 347.
And that's more, so it must be good.
Right? No, that's not what we're after. So I think a lot of the time that's what ends up happening, is that at a subconscious level, we don't realize the cost. We're not focusing on the cost. And because we're living in a society where, I mean, everybody's tired, everybody's exhausted, most people are burnt out. That's like worn as a badge of pride. Like if you're too busy and you're getting up early in the morning and you're going to bed late at night and you're doing all this stuff during the day, a lot of the time people use that to get their value need met as well. So there's like, it's like,
sorry, I'm just thinking about how that's marketed. Like in like reality shows that show these celebrities grinding, and there's nothing like, there's times you need to grind, but
for them it's a way of life,
and they're like, look at what I can do, and it's like, I'm seeing everything that you're not doing. Like you're exhausted, like take a nap.
And I've seen it with people in the personal development industry who they're like, yeah, I'm up at 3 a.m. and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I don't go to bed until 2:30 a.m. It's like, that's half an hour sleep. No, I mean, obviously that's a slight exaggeration,
but sometimes it's not,
right?
And that's the thing. Sometimes, and the random occasion, yes, we all do it. Sometimes it is the necessary. Sometimes you need to prioritize this need versus this need, and it happens. But people are using this as the general. This is their every single day.
Absolutely. And there are times, as Serena said, where we will make a conscious decision, and we've got an episode coming up on this where we'll make a conscious decision of, okay, we are going to do it this way for this period of time, and we're not going to meet these needs as well as we would like to be currently, because it meets these needs to do that, and we have a fixed period of time in which to do this. We're going to do it for that period, and then on the other side, we're going to make and we will underpin these needs as we can as we're going through. So it's not to say that you don't ever have that, but we do. I mean, I've seen people who teach people how to live at the optimum level who are sick because their way of doing things isn't sustainable. But of course, they don't want people to know that. And it's sad, because there is this kind of sense of like this, the more busy I am, the more valuable I am. And it's like, No. You're actually saying you're less valuable, that that it's okay to sacrifice your physical well-being for X, Y, and Z. Now, I understand that there is a lot of privilege in this. Some people, in order to physically survive, they need to be working so many hours and so many jobs. This is no judgment or criticism of that at all. And that is a symptom of the fact we are in a broken system right now. But I'm talking about the people who do not need that to survive. They're pushing and grinding. I remember that documentary series that we watched, and I know you know exactly who I'm talking about.
It was the one I was thinking of when the thought came up. Yeah.
And it's like somebody who is like on their day off is up at like 2:30 a.m. doing a workout. It's like, that's not
trying to keep my body healthy
while doing business meetings. And it's like, yeah. Anyway, we digress.
Shocker.
For a change. And so a lot of people don't want to say no. And the thing is,
sorry, that's the worst sound.
It's like, that's the end of the coffee.
So sad. I mean, it just sounds sad, doesn't it? It's like,
it does sound not as sad as the look on your face right now. It's like, aww.
And it was a large too.
Oh.
All right. Back to not digressing.
For a microsecond, I would imagine. The other reason a lot of people do this is they get into the habit. It's such a habit for them to say yes, because they've got conditioned into this, and they've got those little hits of like, oh, it feels good to do that. Oh, it feels good to do that. I'm doing that again. But then what ends up happening is they get into that habit so much so they don't even stop and think. They don't even stop to ask themselves, is this something I want to do? Is this something I've got the capacity for? Am I available? Or any of these things? They say yes before the thought has even it's almost like it comes in one ear, it goes through the mouth, yes, and out the other ear again. And you go, whoa, what happened there? How did that happen? But most people, it's only later that go, why did I do that? I didn't want to say yes. It doesn't work for me to say yes. What the hell was I thinking?
Or to think what it's going to compromise in that moment. Like we do that whole, I think that analogy of the ear to the mouth to the ear and then out
without passing through the brain in between.
Yeah, it just kind of circumvents it, and then you're like, wait a minute, like how am I going to help with this event and do this and this and go to work and keep a household and all of the things that you may be trying to do on top of it. You're not thinking about the life that you actually live. You're like, this one specific event, okay, yes. And it's like, well, put that event into your life and see, does it actually serve me to do that because of all the other things?
Right. And I mean, and we're people who are very good. I mean, we love doing things. We love getting involved in things. We love helping and supporting. We love adventures. Like, we're very, very good at saying yes. Mm-hmm. We have no issue saying yes at all. But it was a real learning curve for both of us. Oh, yeah. Learning to say no.
And still a learning curve. There are sometimes there, and now the learning curve is, I circumvented my brain on this one. I know I said yes, but honestly, I just don't have the capacity. Is there a different way I can help out?
Right.
And we'll get to that in a different episode, I'm sure, too. Mm-hmm. But it's hard because we want to. And that, like, there's part of us that wants to do everything and help every single person. And
I'm actually I'm gonna start this section a little backwards, because what I'm about to share is normally one of the last things I would share about this, but it's just come into my brain, and I do think it's a very relevant example. It's not the example that I think most people would expect me to be giving, and we will give those a little bit later. But the example that's coming to my mind right now is our birthdays this year. So we were thinking, I think it was sort of October time. That's the sort of time where we were starting to think about, you start thinking about, especially a December baby, you have to get in ahead of the curve, because otherwise everyone's booked mm-hmm. with all the Christmas stuff or other holiday celebrations around that time. And so we had a conversation, and I think it was Serena. She was like, what do you think, instead of doing a party this year, that we do a fundraiser for a local nonprofit that we both really support? I was like, I love that idea. And us being us, so as soon as Serena comes up with an idea, of course I come up with an idea that takes it a bit further, and she comes up with an idea that takes it a bit further. Before you know, it's this full-blown fundraiser with live music, with performances, with a silent auction. I mean, there's all these things that have like, I mean,
another fundraiser built into the fundraiser.
Yeah, I mean,
and they are now fun raisers.
Yeah, fun raisers. So we had this idea, and I was like, I love that idea. It would be a great way of celebrating. We still get to have all of our people there. We get to have a fun night, and we get to benefit an organization that we love. Like, what's not to like about that? And then, as I shared in the last episode, we were in the midst of doing this evidence submission for my US visa, which I'm not going to lie, this has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, without question. And we're speaking about somebody who broke their back a couple of years ago and had to heal from a broken back. So, I mean, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And it took a lot of energy, and we were both exhausted. And before we even got to the end of the visa situation, I said to Serena, what do you think about postponing our celebration? Now, bear in mind, we're both December babies, to maybe February, possibly January, but I'm thinking like in the new year. I think we need to recover in order to be able to, one, do it the way we want to do it, and two, enjoy it the way that we want to enjoy it. And Serena went, yeah, I thought the same thing a week ago, but it was kind of one of the things that was giving you a little bit of joy in the midst of all of this visa stuff. And I didn't want to break that bubble, but I think the same thing. And this is something where this is not saying no to somebody external. So where someone's asked you to do something, it's like yes or no. This is about saying no to yourself, and saying no to something that you really want to do, and you know it's going to meet your needs to do it. But it's about looking at those situations and going, we said yes. We'd spoken to the venue. We'd already spoken to some of the performers. Like, things were in motion. And we were less than 2 months out from the date that we were looking at. And we checked in and said, actually, does this still support our needs? Because when we came up with the idea, I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. It'll be a perfect way of celebrating on the other side of this thing. And it'll be something for us to look forward to, and blah, 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 blah. And the truth was, it would have met our needs, yes, but it would have cost our needs more to have done it in that moment in time. And saying yes to that would have been saying no to the rest and replenishment and renourishment we required. It would have meant saying no to enjoying it the way that we wanted to. It would have been saying no to doing it the way we wanted to do it.
It would have been saying no to a lot of the things that are going to come up between now and then.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're planning a fundraiser, I mean, we're planning it. We are in it. We are dedicated to it, which means everything between, before we said reevaluated, to be like, not right now.
Yes. No on this timeline. Yes, we still want to do it, but no, that timeline doesn't work anymore. And go ahead.
Just the options, and right there, we're meeting right there and saying no. We're meeting our personal power, because we're giving ourselves options, and we're like, you know what, I can choose.
We're choosing which one works, right? Absolutely. And I think that's the thing with all of this, is that it's sometimes going to be hard to say no to others, but it can be really hard to say no to yourself, especially when it's something that you really want. But when saying no to ourselves in one respect means saying yes to ourselves in another. Another great example was like last night. The guy I'm seeing was playing music at one of my favorite bars. I really wanted to go. I'd been kind of tired, but I had a little nap, and I was like, I'm feeling okay, actually. And I was like, I could go out, and chances are I wouldn't be in as good a state today as I would be now, because I'm still tired. I'm still recovering from the visa stuff. It's not like it was just like, oh God, I can't go out before podcasting. I've done that plenty of times. But where I am currently, that wouldn't have met my needs. So I went, you know what? I'm going to do it tomorrow night instead. I'm going to do it after doing the podcasting. So I'm a little bit tired at the bar. It doesn't matter. If I'm a little bit tired in the middle of podcasting, I mean, you've seen it happen. Like the connections stop working. Everything goes on like shortcut.
If neither of our brains are connecting at optimum speed, I mean, usually we try to balance it. Like one is on, one is off. I mean,
we back each other up.
Most of the time, Claire is on, and I'm. We're on a podcast.
You're just on in a different way. That's all it is.
I float on my own vibe.
So I think that, as I said, that normally that's the example I would have given last, but I think it was a really important thing to recognize that you can say no to yourself, and it doesn't need to be a no completely. It could be a no to right now. It could be a no to doing it this way, but I could do it this way. And like negotiating the commitments that you've made to yourself and to other people is a really valuable skill that will save you from costing your needs in the ways that a lot of people do.
And a lot of times it's hard, especially at the beginning, to kind of identify when the change needs to be made, when a tweak needs to be made. Mm-hmm. And it's if there's something going on, like let's say that with the birthday example, if we had stuck to it and today we're like, okay, actually today wouldn't be happening if we had planned to go forward with our birthdays.
No.
And neither would anything that was going to happen podcasting wise between now and that date. And there was supposed to be, there's a lot planned for that time. Mm-hmm. And so it would have, I'm just thinking about how much that would have compromised. The more I'm thinking about, the more I'm realizing that would have compromised so much more than we would have gained from it, from a needs perspective. But I was saying, like, as you're kind of getting into it, and I totally lost my train of thought. I thought it was such a good point, too.
You were talking about, okay, I'm going to say what you'd initially said triggered me to think, and then cool. if it sparks back, you, or it might be the same thing, you never know. How do you know? How do you know? You want me to carry on, or do you want to jump in?
Yeah, you carry on, and maybe I'll remember,
Like, how do you know if something needs to be tweaked? Well, a lot of the times, the way to know is that when you think about it, if you think about it and you've got nothing but excitement, nothing but positive anticipation, like this is going to be amazing, I'm so excited for this thing, then chances are it's probably in alignment with the majority of your needs. If you think about it and you're like, oh God, it feels like I want to be more excited about this. Like something in me feels a little bit like, I don't know why, but something, I'm like, there's some resistance to it. There's some hesitation about it. Like I feel
Softness.
So yeah,
like, just like
I want to feel more. The word that comes to my mind is like, I should feel more excited about this. Like if you find yourself shoulding about this and you're like, I should be more excited about this, ask yourself why you're not, because that's often the thing that needs to be tweaked.
And sometimes it can be the simplest little tweak. It could be like, oh, I said yes to this thing and it's at 3, but like if it could be at 4, that would make a world of difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes 5 minutes, in a time perspective.
I need a 30-minute nap before I can go do that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to shift it by an hour so I can get a 30-minute nap in, and then I'm going to be able to really enjoy it. So something I mentioned in the context of that example, was there anything more you want to share about the how?
No, but thank you for finding my thought and presenting.
Cool. You're welcome. I was like, got it. It's right. We're good. We still caught it. Something I shared within that example, which is one of the things that we often say to people to help them with this process, is to realize if you are going to say yes to something, first, notice that you're being asked a question. Like stop, pause, and think about, what do you want your answer to be? Do you want your answer to be yes? Do you want your answer to be no? Do you want your answer to be not right now? Do you want your answer to be, I need a little bit more time? Like give yourself a moment to think, firstly. But the other thing is to think about, if I say yes to this thing, what am I saying no to? Because you are definitely saying no to something by saying yes. So if I'm saying yes to doing this thing, I'm saying no to some me time. I might be saying no to some sleep. I might be saying no to some time by myself, which I actually really need to recharge my batteries. I might be saying no to time with my kids. I might be saying no to time with my partner. I might be saying no to time with my friends.
I might be saying no to getting other stuff done that just been niggling the shit out of me, like household chores.
Been what?
Oh, niggling.
The niggle monster's back. Think about, but get really clear on the fact you're not saying yes in a vacuum. What ends up happening is a lot of the time, what will end up happening is that because people don't have anything in their calendar, because there's nothing in my calendar, therefore I'm available. And in fact, I think Josephine shared this in the group just maybe yesterday or the day before. Just because you're available doesn't mean, just because you're free doesn't mean you're available.
Yes.
Like, just because you don't have something else planned doesn't mean to say you're available for this other thing. And what ends up happening, and I see this with so many people, where it's like, well, just because I haven't booked something into that slot, technically my calendar is free. But when I say no to this calendar, when I say yes to this thing, I'm saying no to going grocery shopping, no to planning my meals for the week, no to doing some exercise, no to seeing my friends, no to getting some rest, no to getting organized with some stuff that needs to be done around the house. Be clear, because what happens then is you're making a decision between two things. What is the other thing that you would use that time for? And then you're not just saying yes to this, you need to decide which of those things is more important. Now, it may be that when you've considered that, actually, yes, that is something that I would like to do. Quite often, if it's like a once a year thing, and like Serena and I are like, well, we could be doing this thing that's once a year, or we could be doing at home doing chores. You bet your ass which one's going to go out the window in that moment. If it's going to be a once in a lifetime thing, no contest. Mm-hmm. If it's something where it's like, well, yeah, I'd kind of like to do this, but you know what? I'm exhausted right now. I really need the rest. That then becomes the decision. You make the choice between rest and doing this thing. And when you understand that you're doing this thing to meet your needs, you need to check in. Are the needs that this is meeting and the way that it's meeting needs actually going to meet the needs, as well as this other thing I could be doing at that same period of time? So you need to get really clear on, if I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? And if I'm saying no to this, what am I saying yes to? Because I'm saying yes to me. One of the things I actually often suggest people do is that actually they book out their calendars with the things that they want to do for themselves, like time for me, grocery shopping, meal prepping, exercise, all those sorts of things. So when someone asks if you're free, check your calendar. No, I'm not free. Now, you can then say, what's it for? And if you think you might want to do that, say, let me see if I can shuffle some things around. Now that's a viable, valid answer. But the automatic, I don't have anything planned in that time, means that we often end up compromising the things that we really need for ourselves in favor of what somebody else is asking us to do or not do.
And those things that you need
or not do. Do. I mean, not doing really is not valid. That's not relevant in this situation. Carry on.
I think a lot of times people also think of those little things that we kind of do as everyday adults: grocery shopping, cleaning, tying up loose ends, going through bills, whatever it is.
Laundry.
Yeah. Fucking laundry. Is there anybody that likes laundry? Like I know some people like doing dishes, like they find that really? Kind of. Yeah, I've known some people that find it kind of cathartic, the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, like meditative maybe.
Yeah, or just that like action of cleaning something. Mm-hmm. Like, but for the most part, like I've never been somebody that's like, oh, I love doing laundry. Mm-hmm.
Nope. No.
Yeah, no, not a thing. But a lot of those things take up time, and they're necessities a lot of times to kind of get through life and to not make yourself spin out because you get home and you see the pile of laundry, the pile of dishes, mm-hmm. and all of these things. Like, it's important to realize those things take time, and those things need to be done for yourself if it's something that helps your, like, if I come into well-being. My well-being, mm-hmm. If I come in and see that there's dishes every single day, eventually that's going to get to me, and mm-hmm. that's going to compromise my needs. Like, if they sit there for a day or two, maybe I've chosen to prioritize something else, but after a while, that needs to get done to help meet my needs.
Right. And one of the other things I'm going to say about this is a lot of the time what ends up happening is because, and when we've talked about innumerable times, and we will talk about it innumerable times again in the future, a lot of people have a very compromised value need, which is the need that relates to our self-worth because of the society and the conditioning that we have. And what it ends up doing is it means that the things that are for us, the things that are should be, need to be priorities for our well-being are the things that we compromise. They're the things that we let go of in comparison to the things that are benefiting other people. And one of the things that in order to help get better at saying no, i.e. saying no to other people or even to yourself and some of the things that you want to do, to say yes to the things that you really need for your well-being, requires you to pay some attention to your value need, to really give your value need a little bit of love and attention, and to bolster that, because we talked about it in I think it was one of the Self First series episodes about the link between self-worth and meeting your needs. Like if you have low self-worth, you don't meet your needs, which means that you believe you're less worthy of having your needs met, so you meet your needs less, and then you've got that downward spiral. The same is true in the opposite direction, which is like, I'm worthy of having my needs met, so I do things to meet my needs, and because I do things to meet my needs, I believe I'm more worthy of having my needs met, and it goes in the other direction. So I think that a lot of time, like, we really want to be cultivating our value need in order to ensure, to help support this pattern in being shifted in a way that's going to actually work for us. And one of the tools that we often give people when it comes to how to do this, because a lot of the time, as I said, people have said yes before they've even thought about it, is because in that moment when someone says, oh, could you do this? It's like deer in headlights. Or it's like Dexter in headlights. Have I told you about the Dexter thing?
I don't think so.
So little aside, we'll come back to the deer in headlights and the thing. I've got a note, so I'll come back to it. If you drive from Miami down to Key West or vice versa, there is a section in the middle of that drive in which you have Keys deer. So they're small deer that are on the sides of the road, and so they bring the speed limit down because they will often wander on the road, and I think they're a protected species. They're endangered. Correct. Exactly. So there are a lot of measures in place, and the very very first time I came down on the actual tarmac of the street, you have these signs coming up like Keys deer crossing, blah 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 blah. Actually, on the tarmac of the road, it says DE. There's a big X through the middle. ER. So it's basically deer crossing. But the very first time I saw it, I went, what's Dexter? Because that's how it reads. If you just read it, it just looks like it says Dexter. So every time I come, it's like Dexter. Like
it's another cock lollipop.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever shared that story here, have we?
Stay tuned. I'm gonna leave you hanging on that one.
Yeah, that's a funny one. We'll share that for another. Save that for another day.
That's a different story for a different day.
But yeah. So for me, it's the Dexter thing. So when I think of deer in headlights, all I think about is Dexter. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So when
that really had nothing to do with it.
No, I did say
make
it's
the connection.
A complete tangent. Yeah, I mean, it was a complete tangent, but it was a tangent that made sense in my head. Like, I make connections that nobody else makes.
I see where you were going. I'm picking up what you were dropping down there.
Yeah, it's the reason the universal needs exists, because I make connections that nobody else makes. So anyway, somebody asks you the question, deer in headlights, oh my goodness, what do I say? And you kind of freeze because you don't know what to say, and because you're not prepared for this moment, you're not prepared to say no. You don't want to just go, no. Like, generally speaking, we would like to give a little bit more of a gracious response to that.
No.
Oh, it reminds me of there's a comedian in the UK called Sarah Millican. Like, if you haven't seen her, she's hilarious. Just a bit of a warning. She can get pretty filthy. She's I kind of love her as a comedian because how she looks and her comedy don't look like they would match, which means that they match beautifully. I mean, and it's great because she's kind of breaking all of these like stereotypes and ideas about how somebody should look and how they are and everything. And there's this brilliant piece that she does. I'm trying to think which of her specials it's in. I'll have a look. I'll put it in the show notes. But she's learned to say no, but she's got quite.
Yeah, you have me listen to that
I made you listen to this one. If I remember, I'll share the link as well to the little YouTube clip about it. The thing is that she's got quite a high pitched voice, generally speaking, and when she's learned to say no, like her voice changes. She's like, no. Like every time, like, there were certain things that she said no to, and like this, I won't spoil it because I won't do it justice. But it is that thing about rather than just saying, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't, blah blah blah, and she's just like, no. Think we should have more of it in the world, quite frankly. But if you don't want to just say no, and most of us, if you have some people pleasing tendencies, And we've just recovering people pleasers, and we've just, like, you'll have heard our people pleaser series recently. This is another one of those people pleasing tendencies that tends to come up, like saying yes to people and not wanting to say no. And because you're not comfortable saying no, and you don't have a way of saying no that you're comfortable with, you say yes rather than saying no, because you haven't figured out how to do it in a way that feels okay to you,
or at least saying not right now.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's what we get into. It's because we're not comfortable saying no, we just say yes. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to come up with your placeholder responses. So what am I going to say when somebody asks me to do something that I'm not sure whether I want to do or not? It's not I'm sure I don't want to. It's not I'm sure I do want to. It's like I feel like I could use some time. The most important thing about your placeholder is that it buys you time and it puts you in the driving seat of the decision-making process, because it also meets your personal power need by doing that. And it's giving you choice, it's giving you option. So there's a number of different placeholders, but basically what you want to do is you want to err on the side of no, and then leave space. If you wanted to make it a yes later, you could do. So one of my placeholders is, I'm really sorry, I don't have the capacity for that right now. Let me feel into it. If I decide that I do, I will let you know. So there's not this pressure of someone keep checking in with you. Like you are saying that you are going to let them know. Another one is that I'm not available at that time. If it's something if it's not, I'm not available at that time, that's an easy, I'm not available at that time. And like something I know I don't want to do, boom, done. Like that's it, complete. Or it could be, I'm not available at that time. If I think that I might want to think about this and I might want to do it, then like, I'm not available at that time. Let me see if I can shuffle some things around. If I can, I will let you know. So all of these placeholders are something that's it's no for now. I'm going to take some time to think about it, and I will let you know if it's a yes. I don't want you following up with me, because that creates more of this kind of pressure situation. And you want to come up with a version of that feels good to you, so that, that's your automatic response. Every time somebody asks you anything, it's like, actually, I don't have the capacity right now. I don't have the availability. I don't know about that one. I'm going to say no for the moment. Like, I don't know if I'm available. I'm going to say no. If it turns out a yes, I will get in contact with you. So there's lots of ways of kind of buying yourself time. You got to find the way of doing it that feels right for you.
Another one that is, whenever you can err on the side of no, it is better, because it sets an expectation of
probably no.
Probably not.
Yeah.
One that I started out with is, let me check my calendar. I'll get back to you. And always that I'll get back to you at the end, or I'll get back to you if I can.
Yeah.
Like set. Oh.
Put the niggle monster away.
I accidentally just squeezed the niggle monster. That's why I couldn't keep him in my lap. I'm playing with him. But just saying, I need to check my calendar, because sometimes I don't have the capacity to come up with the placeholder, and it's like, I need to check my calendar, I'll get back to you. Or I need to check my calendar, I'll get back to you if I can make it. Or
yes. And I think of those two, the better one is the second one.
Absolutely.
Because the challenge you have here is that I need to check my calendar is very ambiguous. Like it's not a yes, it doesn't feel like it's a yes or a no. It's kind of very central, which can be a good thing if you're very central in how you feel about it.
Or if you just need to buy like the little bit of time to
figure it out. The thing is that what tends to happen with this is that we need to go through the pendulum swing. We've talked about the pendulum swing with this and with stuff in the past. We'll talk about it again in the future without any question or doubt in my mind. The pendulum swing is if you are used to doing things a certain way, as in if you are used to saying yes, 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 what you want to do is you want to go through the pendulum swing. You want to get to no, 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 no. So you can then actually tell what's a yes and what's a no. Because a lot of the time you don't actually know until you're there. It's like, why did I say yes to this? And actually by saying no, you can then check in and go, actually, I think that's something I would like to do. And then you can go back and say, actually, I've changed my mind. I would like to come. Da, 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 da. But I think that erring on the side, if saying no is something you find really hard, then erring on the side of saying no to begin with, or a placeholder that is more no than it is yes, is going to be supportive for you to begin with, because also it gets you into the habit of being comfortable saying no. One of the ways to get comfortable saying no is to say no. I remember it was quite funny, actually. I was talking to some people, friends, about this on at Saturday night. I was at a salsa club many, many years ago, and generally speaking, I'm open to dancing with most people. There was this one person, though, that I'm somebody you've probably gathered by now. I'm kind of an energy sort of person. Kinda. Just a little bit. And the second this person came up to me, my entire system was like, no, I don't want to dance with you. But generally speaking, I try to do it in a way which is not too confrontational. So I will, because I don't want to, like, it can take a lot of take a lot of courage to come up to somebody and ask someone to dance. So I don't want to be like, no, your energy is revolting, I don't want to dance with you. Like, from yes, no. And I've been on the receiving end of, like, I remember when I first moved to London, I saw this guy dancing, and I wasn't a local at that point, so they didn't know whether I was a dancer, and he was a very good dancer. And I remember I went up to him and asked him to dance, and he literally looked me up and down and went, no, and walked off. And I was gutted, because I was like, seriously? The funny thing was, I can't remember which way around it was. I think I was wearing my hair up that day. That Friday, we were at a different club, like completely different venue, completely different area of London. Saw the same guy. He didn't recognize me because my hair was different the second time round. But he saw me dancing, because the first one had been a very busy place. The second one, it was early in the night. There weren't a lot of people yet. He came over to ask me to dance, and it took everything in me not to be like, no. I'm like, Claire, do not piss off the locals. You've just moved to the area. You want to be on. And as it turned out, we became quite good friends over a period of time. So anyway, rewinding back, salsa club, generally speaking, I try to be kind in how I turn somebody down if I don't want to. So initially I was like, oh no, sorry, I'm dancing with this person. And then it's like, no, sorry, I'm going to go to the bathroom. No, I need a drink. Like, and you get to the point where I appreciate somebody having the courage to come and ask somebody. And I understand that I hadn't been a flat, no, I don't want to dance with you. So there's a part of me that's got a little bit of respect for somebody who continues to try. But also I wasn't like, oh no, like, come and ask me later. I was like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, I was kind of shut down in terms of how I did it.
It should have been pretty obvious.
Well, it would have been obvious to anybody who had any understanding of, like, cute, like, I mean, and who knows, he might have been neurodivergent and wasn't able to read those cues. Like, completely understand that. So there was this point though where I was going onto the dance floor with somebody else. I'll never forget this. As I walked past him, so as I walked past him, he was going to start in Serena's screen and end on mine. He was like, but I wanted to dance with you. As he, like, and I was like, oh, don't touch me. No.
That would have been the second time that it would have been so hard for me to not be like, no.
But I was like, again, I'm like, okay, it's fine. So then later in the evening, I was sat down having a drink with, it was just, and that was like, okay, you're crossing boundaries now. This is not okay. I understand asking somebody to dance, no problem with that. I understand somebody asking a couple of times to dance. But when you start touching somebody when they have not given you consent to, that's not okay.
And guilting, like, I mean, he was trying to guilt you into it, which
absolutely.
is even like, I mean, just an extra layer of ick on top of it.
Yeah. Do you know who you're talking to? No, he didn't, is the simple answer. So a little bit.
Nice try, fail.
Yes. Not today. So anyway, so I'm sat down having a drink with the person that I'm there with. And he came over to ask me to dance again. And I just went, no. And I smiled at him. And you could see he was like, does not compute. Like, what do you mean no? I mean,
did you just tell me no?
White, straight man. There was an element of entitlement there. I'm not going to lie, and privilege and all the stuff that was associated with it. But I was like, no. But I wasn't like, no. I was like pleasant about it. And you could see he was like you could see his brain trying to make the connections, like, doesn't compute. And then he went, but but why? Like, and again, which again indicates his sense of entitlement to dance with me for a start. And I just went, because I don't want to, like with a smile. And he was like, he couldn't believe that somebody was saying no. And I wasn't being an asshole about it. I was being perfectly polite, but I was hard no. And it was like, I got to the point where I was like, I'm saying no. And then when you want a reason, I'm just going to say, I don't want to, because that is a valid answer. And he was like, so have we danced before? Do you know? And I was like, no, I just don't want to. Could not handle it. I mean, and I'm glad I was with somebody, because I'm going to be very honest. In that situation, I would have wanted to find someone to come and walk me to my car, because I wouldn't have felt safe. Because his whole energy, his entitlement, his approach, his attitude, everything about it was like, I don't trust that you are going to take no for an answer. In that situation, he knew he couldn't have done anything about it because there were people around. But I could see he was angry about the fact that I had said no. And I could see that he thought that there was something wrong with my saying no. So it is okay in certain situations to find other ways around a situation. Like going back to the universal needs tree, security need is right in the roots of the tree. Your safety and security comes first. It's okay to, like, sometimes I won't say a direct no to somebody, even though I'm somebody who can be very direct and there's no issue being direct. But there are some people I know, I'm not comfortable being direct with you because I don't trust how you're going to respond to that directness. So I'll soften my response somewhat. I wouldn't even use the word massage with respect to someone like that, but I'll soften my response somewhat, so it's not as direct. But that's for my safety, not to protect their feeling. Well, I suppose in some respects, I'm protecting their feelings is the thing that's going to make me feel safer. But it's I'm doing it for me and my needs. I'm not doing it for them and theirs. So I will say that a caveat by this is there's a slightly different situation, but it is okay just to say no. No is a complete sentence. Mm-hmm. I don't want to is a valid reason. And finding these things that you can say, that means that the more you get comfortable with it. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've been dancing for 22 years now. God, 22 years? 21 years, something. A long time. When I first started dancing, there is no way in hell I would have ever said a flat no to somebody. And I certainly wouldn't have told somebody that I didn't want to. But I got comfortable saying no. And my entire system was giving me the, nope, this does not feel good. Get out. Like, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Like, everything was saying no. And that's the thing, is you want to listen to the signals that your body are giving. If you're used to saying yes, even someone asking you the question, your system's likely to panic a bit and go, like danger, because like I don't know how to say no. I'm not used to saying no. Once you get more comfortable with putting these placeholders in place and we're starting to say no to things if they don't feel in alignment, your system will tell you if something is a no. Like if something doesn't feel good in the system, it's like I've always said, and I will always say, trust your intuition first and foremost over everybody else, including anything that either of us say. Mm-hmm. Like, your intuition knows best. And if your system is going, nah, listen to the nah and do it and navigate that in whichever way feels best and right for you.
This thought came to me a little bit ago, but it just, I probably could have jumped in with it, and it actually kind of relates. This really reminds me of the episode that we specifically did about the Queer Keys fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And, actually, no, it wasn't that one. It was the one about the Pride Parade.
Yes.
And Claire...
When the Pride Parade comes after a fall.
Yes. In that episode, we described how we had this event we really wanted to do and had committed to, and how Claire, for her needs that were up that time, needed to dip out on the day, like moments before we were leaving, and was like, no, I can't do this. And how her saying no in that moment allowed her to actually join us, because once she said no, her body was like, okay, I can just be. And then an hour later, she had processed kind of through what was going on in her body. Her body had physically processed it. And because she had given herself that moment by saying no, she was able to like text me and be like, actually, I'm on my way now.
Yeah.
Like, and was able to do that thing she really, really wanted to do because she gave herself the permission to say no when it served her to say no to it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that it can be, no doesn't need to be a no. It can sometimes be a not right now. It can sometimes be a not in that way. It can be a, I'm a no for now, but let me get back to you if that changes. Like you can negotiate these things. And Serena and I do this with each other all the time. It's like, I'm not sure. Like I'd like to, but you can be honest, be like, I'd really like to do this. I'm just not sure I'm going to have the capacity for it. So I'm going to say no. And if I've got the capacity, I'll rock on up. And it's okay to renegotiate with others and with yourself, and to honor what is present moment by moment by moment. Because one of the key things with needs, they're always changing. Moment by moment, your needs are always changing. Like, I don't need water right now because I just had a sip, and the hiccups apparently. But like 10 minutes from now, I'm probably going to need another sip of water again. I'm not hungry right now because I just had a smoothie, but give me another hour or so, I might need some lunch. Like, I'm feeling emotional in this moment. Well, when I processed it, that emotion's going to... So like, our needs are constantly changing. And by honoring where you are in the moment, that is going to mean that you are in a better position to be able to say yes in a way that feels really good when you do say yes. Because you're not going to say yes and show up depleted. You're going to show up... And even in those moments where, like that's a great example where not only was the no the thing that allowed me to say yes, I could have just been out. Mm-hmm. I could have just been out. It could have been a no, like last night was. Last night was a no, I'm not going to go out. And it was the right thing for me to do. And it's okay for a no to just be a no. It's okay for a no to change to a yes. It's okay for a no to change to a maybe, which could change to a yes or a no again in the future. Like, the one thing that we need to be clear with is the fact that in the same ways with our boundaries, in the same ways with our commitments, it's okay for them to change as our needs change, and to honor where we are at as best we can as we navigate through this. And the most important thing, go back and listen to the Self First episode, the difference between negatively impacting somebody and not meeting needs that were your responsibility. Because a lot of the time when we say yes, we're saying yes because we're trying to meet their needs, and those needs are not our responsibility. And by prioritizing those needs over our own needs, that's when and I've got a feeling we've got one in the people pleasing series about that. Mm-hmm. We end up compromising our value need even further, and that's one of the things that we want to support in order to shift this. Anything else you want to share?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Seriously, it's a funny little clip.
It's worth. I mean, if you're listening to this, we'll put the link in.
Yeah,
it's worth the couple of minutes.
Have a giggle. Have a giggle. And
then try not to do it.
And it's like, yes, no. They're like, I got a feeling we might try doing that with each other now. It's like, no. Just for fun. So anyway, have some make a game of it. Like, just practice and play with saying no. And the good thing is, if you want to start doing this, do it in the places that you feel safest first. Like Serena and I could just practice with saying no to each other. Like, she'll probably laugh at me if I say that, rather than she's not going to get upset or offended. It's not going to be a work situation where there's somebody else involved that could potentially compromise things for me. So practice in the areas where there's less charge around it and there's less risk. And get used to it in that space, to then learn how to do it in the spaces where there's a little bit maybe more intensity, there's maybe a little bit more charge, maybe a little bit more risk. But by getting used to it, you'll figure out how to navigate those situations as they come up. Is there something more?
Yeah, I could probably go on that one for a little while longer. So I'm trying to determine whether we make the episode longer or I just keep my mouth shut for a little bit.
Totally up to you.
Start with small things. Start with the things around your house. Like, you know what? No, I don't want to do dishes right now. I want to do those later so that I can rest at this moment. Mm-hmm. Start with yourself. It's easier to learn how to say no to yourself, I think, and kind of get used to the no in your internal dialogue to then bring it into the other situations. And to do it, when I first started doing this, it was like, I'm going to start saying no a little bit more in our relationship, and letting Claire know, like, I'm really working on my no, so that
Yes,
the other
that's a really key thing.
so the other person knows, like, this isn't personal, and like everything may be a no up front for a little bit, just so I can get into the habit of doing what serves me.
Yes.
And letting them know where you are in your journey with no, and then
Yeah.
it might influence their journey with no, like something that, you know, my husband and I, when he learns a lot from me just doing my thing, and then all of a sudden he comes back and it's like, okay, now I don't get offended when he says no. It's like,
Right.
okay, you're meeting your needs by saying no.
Right.
Cool.
I actually was having a conversation with somebody just last night who'd met somebody new who was like learning about the news. They were like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want in. And he was like, yeah, you really should. I've learned so much more. I've learned how to say no, damn it. And it's true, like, because like things change. And at that point, you also realize who are the people who value you? Who are the people who respect you? Who are the people who want something to work for both people, not just for them? Because it then becomes clear about, okay, maybe these are relationships that need to transition a little bit in terms of where my prioritization is, because I want to be prioritizing the people like Serena who wants it to work for us both. If it doesn't work for us both, it doesn't work for either of us. She knows that I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to do it this way because it works for me, but I don't care if it works like that. No, that doesn't exist in our world, because it doesn't work for either party when that happens. So you get clear on the people who, when you feel safe to do this and when you feel respected and valued in how you say it, those are the relationships that you really want to cultivate.
And then once you have those relationships cultivated, it makes it easy to say no to those other people. So easy.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
It's like, no, because I know who my people are.
Yes. I was just like, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, no, and if you don't like that, bye.
See you later.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Nothing more from you?
Nope.
In which case, I will say thank you for being here again. Thank you for watching again. Remember, between now and next time, you know what? You know the drill by now. You've watched it enough times. We'll see you soon. Love you. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today,
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review.
as it will help more people find us. And remember, by saying no to one thing, you get to say yes to another. And that might be the thing that meets your needs all the more.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.